Underrated movies. Do you trust me? Are you sure? Okay. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. My mission for the last couple of weeks has been to find movies for you all to watch because we're all pretty bored right now. This is the first in my two-part series of underrated movies that you all can watch right now and that are worth watching. So today we're talking 5. At another time I will bring you 5 more. And I didn't just want this to be a Netflix-centric video like we have been doing in this What to Watch series, so we're going to be pulling from platforms like Amazon Prime and Hulu, and in my next video I'll even give you guys some rental options because we all know we want to buy movies at a time like this. But these are 10 films that I just believe are truly worth a watch that a lot of you have probably seen, and if you are 10 for 10 or today 5 for 5, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. But these are films that I believe need to be brought back into the public consciousness. And Austin, why are you splitting this into 2 videos? Well, I want to dive deep into why I think these movies are underappreciated, underrated, and why I believe it's going to be worth your time to sit down and watch these particular movies. They're all going to be very different, and I'd love to know if you all have any recommendations yourselves. Be sure to leave those in the comments down below, and smash that thumbs up button if you'd like to see more things like this, and if you want part 2, because we can always just stick with part 1. Okay, so let's start with a film that is on Netflix for you all to see right now, possibly one of my favorites that we're talking today, and that is The Florida Project. The Florida Project, if you are an A24 fan, and that is the studio behind these types of movies, then you've probably watched it, you've probably heard of it, but still, to this day, I just don't hear enough about The Florida Project, and that year in particular, it was snubbed across the board in terms of awards, and I was devastated. Sure, Dafoe got nominated, but Dafoe should have won because his performance was incredible. Austin, why is this film worth watching on Netflix? Well, to me, it is the most real of all of the movies that I'm talking about today. It feels like you're taking a peek into the life of this woman who is trying to raise her daughter, who continues to get caught up in so many things that she shouldn't be caught up in because of her responsibility as a parent. It takes place over the span of one summer, and the 6-year-old daughter who is at the forefront of this film, Moni, as she just brings about mischief and adventure with her playmates and bonds with her rebellious but caring mother, and the entire time they're living in the shadows of Walt Disney World. But Willem Dafoe plays the hotel manager who just has the best relationship with this family and really with all of the tenants in general. And what I love about this film is that it is so real, it actually took to an actual location in Florida, and the filmmaking is gorgeous because of that, the use of color, all of those things. But I actually got to visit this location a couple of years back, and as in love with this movie as I was to see this in real life and how everything was just as you saw it in the film, it was an incredible experience, man, and this is absolutely one of my favorites. I can't wait to go back and rewatch this. I feel like every time I watch it, I get more out of it. Not everyone's in love with the ending, and that's the only part of the film I question myself, but the entire journey is worth it. Another spectacular film on Amazon Prime this time around. This is Destin Daniel Creighton. This is Short Term 12. So a 20-something supervising staff member of a residential treatment facility navigates the troubled waters of that world alongside her coworker and longtime boyfriend. So this film deals with a foster care facility for at-risk teenagers, and because of that, these counselors are trying to do their best for these kids who have been pulled from the worst situations. And because of that, you have a little bit of drama, a couple of emotional moments, and a spectacular film dealing with one of the most down-to-earth subjects I've ever seen portrayed on the big or small screen. And the cast is spectacular. I mean, this movie came out a while ago, yet you have Brie Larson and John Gallagher Jr. and Rami Malek and Lakeith Stanfield. I mean, just a phenomenal group of individuals bringing about a soft, subtle, emotional, quiet at times movie with slick direction. And if you're in the mood for a film like this, it may take a bit of emotion out of you. It is a bit dramatic at times, but it's a beautiful movie, only an hour and 30 minutes. It's on Prime right now. Next up, a very sharp turn, a very different movie from Short Term 12. That is Bone Tomahawk, but this movie is so freaking underrated. As Craig Zoller directs this, and honestly, I could put all of his movies on an underrated list, but I believe the most underrated of his is Bone Tomahawk, because this is the one, the other two movies he's done, I see them as films that wouldn't necessarily appeal to a super wide audience, even though I love them. But this is the one I say, why didn't this appeal to a bigger audience? Not that no one watched Bone Tomahawk, but at the time, there wasn't the talk about it that I believe there deserved to be. So in the dying days of the Old West, an elderly sheriff and his posse set out to rescue their town's doctor from cannibalistic cave dwellers. And to say this film goes off the rails may sound like a negative, but if y'all know what this director does, you will see that this mixes the Western genre with the horror genre, with the drama genre beautifully. It does get a bit creepy towards the end. I watched this with my wife recently, and she said, okay, all right. But if you're in for something that mixes horror and the Western feel, this is the movie for you. And you look at the cast: Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, Richard Jenkins. It's an incredible cast, incredible performances, and it's a movie unlike anything else you've seen. Next up is 2017's Brad Status. This is another film on Amazon Prime you guys can watch for free if you have a Prime subscription. It stars Ben Stiller and is directed by Mike White. I was a huge fan of this film when it came out. I believe it was massively underrated just because everyone I talked to had a different opinion on it. Some said it was good but subtle. Others said it was funny but not as dramatic as they wanted it to be. Then others said, well, it was dramatic but not as funny as they wanted it to be. I thought Brad Status was a nice combination of all of these genres. It's all about a father who takes his son to tour colleges on the East Coast and meets up with an old friend who makes him feel inferior about his life's choices. So it's a guy really struggling with, adulthood, old age, and things that come about as you progress through life. And Austin, how do you relate to something like that? Well, I didn't necessarily relate to Brad, but I related to other elements of the story, and I understand his struggle to a degree. The cast is really good. The filmmaking is great. It's a subtle film, and it's not in-your-face humor. It's sarcastic at times, but you got a really good cast in Jermaine Clement, Luke Wilson, Jenna Fisher, Austin Abrams as Troy, and Ben Stiller as the father. It's not the Ben Stiller we're used to, but I think it's worth a watch. So whenever we talk about Taika Waititi, there are only a certain batch of movies that tend to come up in conversation. You obviously have Jojo Rabbit, the Oscar-winning film, Thor Ragnarok, which is his biggest film to date, and What We Do in the Shadows, which is really what launched his career to this point, a spectacular career, and is his funniest movie in my opinion. But no one ever really talks about Hunt for the Wilder People. This film is on Hulu right now, and trust me, it is worth your time. If you're a Taika Waititi fan, and if you enjoy his prior work, now Hunt for the Wilder People isn't as in-your-face funny as What We Do in the Shadows. It isn't as grand as Thor Ragnarok, and it's not as intricate or emotional as Jojo Rabbit, but it is a beautiful combination of all of those things. You have a really good cast in Sam Neill and Julian Dennison, who is, a lot of people see him as the kid from Deadpool 2, but this is where he got his start. And I love how this takes place in New Zealand, Taika going back to his roots and really finding a story that brings together everything that he's known for. That is action, that is adventure, that is comedy, that is drama, and a really nice, subtle sense of emotion. So a national manhunt is ordered for a rebellious kid and his foster uncle who go missing in the wild New Zealand bush. I think this film is massively underrated. I loved it the year it came out. I talked about it nonstop, and it really affected me almost as much as his other films. I love his other movies. That's why he's one of my favorite directors working right now. But what Taika did with an odd, quirky film in Hunt for the Wilder People. I love how he separated it into parts. I love how he went about showcasing this relationship in a subtle way at first, but not even a way that you were necessarily attaching yourself to. You had to wait until the thing happens in the movie, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, Heartbreak City. But from there, the relationship builds, things begin to grow between them, and it's this fun adventure, and you have a really good supporting cast as well. So Hunt for the Wilder People may not be my favorite Taika Waititi movie, but I absolutely believe it's his most underappreciated, underrated, and it's one that I think is worth you all watching right now on Hulu. So those are 5 movies. I have 5 more that I'm ready to talk about, but I'm going to wait for another day. If you guys enjoy this, like I said, show that support. It really helps out this channel, and it tells me you'd like to see more things like this. Really love talking about films that I don't normally get the chance to talk about, and 5 movies that I truly believe are underrated. And I'd love to see your comments down below. So thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll be back again soon, and more Netflix reviews coming your way. Okay.